Once upon a time in a small town, there was an old, spooky house that sat at the end of a quiet street. This house had a reputation for being haunted, and many people in the town believed it was cursed. The story began many years ago when a family moved into the house. The family consisted of a mother, father, and their 2 young children, Sarah and Michael. They were unaware of the house's dark history when they moved in. Strange things started happening soon after they settled in. At night, they would hear eerie footsteps in the hallway, even though no one was there. Doors would creak open on their own, and the children claimed they saw shadowy figures moving in the corners of their rooms. The family decided to investigate and learned that a long time ago, a woman had lived in the house. She was known as Mrs. Blackwell, and she had been a recluse. She rarely left the house and was rumored to practice dark magic. As the story goes, she disappeared mysteriously one stormy night, leaving behind a legacy of fear. One day, while exploring the attic, Sarah found an old diary belonging to Mrs. Blackwell. In it, she described her experiments with magic and her desire for eternal life. It seemed that Mrs. Blackwell had been trying to cheat death. As days turned into weeks, the haunting occurrences grew more frequent and intense. The family decided it was time to seek help. They contacted a local paranormal investigator who conducted a thorough examination of the house. During their investigation, they discovered a hidden room in the basement filled with strange symbols and old books on witchcraft. The investigator concluded that Mrs. Blackwell's restless spirit still lingered in the house, and her quest for eternal life had bound her to it. To free her spirit, they performed a ritual that involved reciting an incantation and burning her old diary. As the diary turned to ashes, a cold wind swept through the house, and the family felt a sense of peace they hadn't experienced since they moved in. The haunting ceased, and the old house was finally free from its dark past. From that day on, the house was no longer considered haunted, and the family could live there in peace. They learned that sometimes, understanding the past and addressing its lingering spirits could bring closure and put an end to even the most terrifying tales of haunted houses. With the haunting finally put to rest, the family began to settle into their new home without the constant fear and unease that had plagued them before. Sarah and Michael, who had once been frightened to sleep in their own rooms, now felt safe and comfortable in the house. As the months passed, the family began to renovate the old house, bringing it back to its former glory. They painted the walls, repaired the creaky floorboards, and replaced the dusty, old furniture with modern pieces. The house transformed from a place of terror into a warm and inviting home. However, there were still some remnants of the past that intrigued Sarah and Michael. They became curious about the history of the town and started researching Mrs. Blackwell's life. They discovered that she had been a misunderstood woman who had faced hardships and isolation in her time. Sarah and Michael felt a sense of empathy for her and realized that her actions had been driven by a deep desire for companionship and a fear of growing old alone. One day, while cleaning out the attic, Sarah stumbled upon a dusty old photograph of Mrs. Blackwell from her younger years. In the photo, she looked lonely and sad. This discovery made the family even more determined to honor her memory and bring closure to her story. They decided to hold a memorial for Mrs. Blackwell in the town's small cemetery. It was a way to pay their respects to the woman who had once haunted their home. Many townspeople attended the ceremony, and it was a somber but respectful event. The family placed flowers on her unmarked grave and said a few kind words about her. As time went on, the house became a place of warmth and community. The family opened their doors to neighbors and friends, hosting gatherings and events. It seemed that the spirit of Mrs. Blackwell, once tormented and alone, had finally found peace. The old house, once known as the Haunted Mansion, became a symbol of transformation and forgiveness. It taught the family and the town that even the darkest of histories could be rewritten with compassion and understanding. And so, the story of the haunted house ended not with fear and dread but with redemption and unity, reminding everyone that sometimes, the past can be put to rest, and a brighter future can emerge from the ashes of the past. As the years passed, the old house at the end of the quiet street continued to be a place of warmth and community. The family who had once been haunted by its dark past had now grown deep roots in the town, and their home had become a cherished part of the community. Sarah and Michael had grown into teenagers with a keen interest in history and the supernatural. They started a local history club at their school and shared the story of Mrs. Blackwell and the house with their classmates. The house itself became a popular spot for school tours, where students learned about the town's rich history and the importance of understanding the past. One summer, Sarah and Michael decided to organize a neighborhood gathering in their backyard. They wanted to bring the community together and celebrate the transformation of their once haunted home. The event featured food, games, and even a small theatrical performance reenacting the story of Mrs. Blackwell. It was a hit, and the entire town came out to enjoy the festivities. Over time, the house became a symbol of resilience and the power of forgiveness. People who had once avoided it now visited regularly, sharing stories and memories. The old house was no longer seen as a place of fear but as a place of healing and understanding. One day, while working in the garden, the family uncovered an old, weathered gravestone hidden beneath a tangle of vines and weeds. It was a grave marker for Mrs. Blackwell's beloved pet cat, Midnight. Realizing that Midnight had been a source of comfort and companionship for Mrs. Blackwell in her lonely days, the family decided to restore the grave and place a small memorial there. The gesture touched the hearts of many in the town, and they joined together to create a beautiful garden around Midnight's grave. It became a peaceful spot where people could reflect on the importance of compassion and empathy. As the years passed, the haunted house's story continued to be shared, not as a tale of horror, but as a story of transformation and redemption. The house stood as a living testament to the idea that even the darkest of places could be filled with light and hope when people came together with kindness and understanding. And so, the house at the end of the quiet street, once haunted and feared, became a place of love, acceptance, and community, proving that in the end, it's the people and their actions that truly define a place's legacy. As time went on, the house at the end of the quiet street continued to evolve and thrive as a symbol of unity and transformation. Sarah and Michael, now young adults, had a vision for the house beyond just being a place of community gatherings. They decided to turn it into a small museum dedicated to preserving the town's history and the story of Mrs. Blackwell. With the support of local historians and volunteers, they collected artifacts, documents, and photographs that told the tale of their town's past. The museum attracted visitors from near and far, helping to boost tourism in the town. People came not only to learn about the history but also to experience the sense of healing and forgiveness that the house now represented. It became a place where visitors could reflect on the power of empathy and redemption. The garden around Midnight's grave continued to flourish, becoming a peaceful oasis for meditation and contemplation. Many visitors left notes and flowers in remembrance of the once feared woman, expressing gratitude for the lessons her story had taught them. The family, too, continued to thrive in their home. Sarah and Michael pursued careers in history and education, inspired by their experiences with the house and its transformation. Their parents, who had initially been unsure about moving into the old, haunted mansion, were now proud of the legacy they had helped create. The town, once divided by fear and superstition, had become united by the house's story. People of all ages and backgrounds came together to celebrate their shared history and the message of redemption and understanding. It became a town known not for its haunted past but for its remarkable ability to transform darkness into light. The house at the end of the quiet street had come full circle, from being a place of fear and mystery to a beacon of hope and community. Its story continued to inspire generations to come, a testament to the enduring power of compassion, forgiveness, and the belief that even the most haunted of places could find peace and redemption. As the years rolled on, the house at the end of the quiet street remained a beloved landmark in the town. It had not only become a museum but also a hub of cultural and educational activities. The museum's popularity grew, drawing tourists, researchers, and history enthusiasts from around the country. Sarah and Michael, now accomplished historians, continued to curate and expand the museum's exhibits. They organized lectures, workshops, and special events that explored various aspects of history and the lessons learned from the house's transformation. The museum had become a place where visitors could not only learn about the past but also reflect on the importance of empathy, forgiveness, and the human capacity for change. The town had fully embraced the house's story, and it was no longer referred to as the haunted house. Instead, it was lovingly known as Blackwell House Museum, named after Mrs. Blackwell as a tribute to her life, her struggles, and the redemption that had taken place within its walls. The town's community spirit had never been stronger. Residents volunteered to maintain the museum and the garden around Midnight's grave, ensuring that the legacy of the house lived on for future generations. It had become a symbol of the town's resilience and the idea that even the most troubled pasts could be transformed into something beautiful. The family who had once been haunted by the house's dark history continued to live there, surrounded by the love and support of their neighbors and friends. They had not only found a home but also a purpose in preserving and sharing the house's story. One day, as Sarah and Michael were exploring the attic for more historical artifacts, they stumbled upon an old, dusty journal. It was Mrs. Blackwell's personal diary, filled with her innermost thoughts and feelings. In it, they discovered that she had once dreamt of turning her house into a place of learning and culture. Inspired by this newfound revelation, the siblings decided to expand the museum's mission. They transformed a portion of the house into a library and research center, where scholars and students could study history, culture, and the importance of empathy. The Blackwell House Museum continued to thrive, evolving into a center for education, research, and community engagement. It served as a testament to the enduring power of compassion, forgiveness, and the belief that even the darkest of places could be transformed into beacons of light and hope. And so, the house at the end of the quiet street, once haunted and feared, had become a source of inspiration for all who crossed its threshold. Its story had transcended the boundaries of time and space, reminding everyone that redemption and transformation were within reach, no matter how haunted their pasts may have been. As the Blackwell House Museum continued to thrive, it gained national recognition for its unique story and mission. People from all over the country came to visit, and the town itself became a destination known for its remarkable transformation from a place of fear to a beacon of hope. Sarah and Michael, now regarded as experts in local history and the house's story, published a book about their experiences. The book became a bestseller and was adapted into a documentary film, further spreading the message of empathy, forgiveness, and transformation to a global audience. The museum's educational programs expanded, attracting students from far and wide. It became a place where young minds could learn not only about history but also about the importance of understanding and accepting others, regardless of their differences. The garden around Midnight's grave continued to flourish, now a symbol of unity and peace in the town. It was meticulously cared for by a dedicated group of volunteers who saw it as a living testament to the idea that even the smallest acts of kindness could have a profound impact. The house itself had undergone renovations to ensure its preservation for future generations. It was now a beautiful blend of history and modern amenities, maintaining its original charm while also serving as a fully functional museum and research center. One sunny afternoon, during a community event at the museum, a stranger approached Sarah and Michael. The woman introduced herself as a descendant of Mrs. Blackwell's long-lost family. She had recently learned about the house's transformation and had come to visit. Touched by the story of her ancestor, the woman donated a collection of Mrs. Blackwell's personal belongings to the museum, including old photographs, letters, and even a portrait of Mrs. Blackwell as a young woman. The artifacts enriched the museum's exhibits, providing a more complete picture of the woman behind the legend. With the newfound connection to Mrs. Blackwell's family, the town organized a special ceremony to honor her memory. It was a touching event that brought tears to the eyes of those who had worked so hard to transform her legacy from one of fear to one of compassion. Over time, the Blackwell House Museum's influence extended beyond the town. It became a symbol of hope and inspiration for communities worldwide, reminding people that even the darkest pasts could be illuminated by the light of understanding and forgiveness. And so, the house at the end of the quiet street, once plagued by a haunting past, had become a beacon of love, unity, and transformation. Its story continued to inspire people far and wide, proving that even the most haunted of places could find redemption and purpose in the hearts of those who believed in the power of empathy and forgiveness. In a small town, a once haunted house with a dark past transformed into the Blackwell House Museum. Through the efforts of a family, Sarah and Michael, and their community, the house became a symbol of empathy and redemption. The museum educated visitors about history and the power of compassion. The garden around Midnight's grave symbolized unity, and the house's story inspired a best-selling book and documentary. If you enjoyed this story of transformation and hope, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales like this one.